In a place where the corpses of monsters were scattered, an explosion occurred. A demon smiled, claiming that with this, it was his victory. The demon's sword was struck into the body of the last human remaining on Earth. This man's name was Zephyr. The world had met its end. 1 year had passed since humanity lost the war against demonkind. The vast majority of humans had been massacred, and the surviving population was captured, mentally broken and used as hosts to give birth to new monsters. Zephyr, the last survivor of the resistance, had continued this lonely fight, until this moment. He battled the demon lord Tartarus, monarch of the demons. Seeing Zephyr in pain, Tartarus cast a spell on him to slow time, allowing them to talk a little longer. Tartarus told Zephyr that he was the first human in a long time to trouble him this much. He was astonished by Zephyr's tenacity and applauded him for it. While many believe that fighting an unwinnable battle is foolish, Tartarus considers those who give up in fear of their opponent's power as truly unwise. He labeled them as weak. When he sees the weak, those without perseverance, it angers him beyond belief. He told Zephyr that, as someone who had climbed to the top of the human world, he must understand. That's why Tartarus offered Zephyr a chance to serve under him. Together, he said, they would conquer other worlds using both their powers. Zephyr asked if he was serious, if Tartarus was truly accepting him. Tartarus replied, of course. Zephyr smiled and said it wasn't a bad offer. But in his mind, he knew it was nonsense. From the impact of their fight, his body had been shattered beyond repair. He knew it couldn't heal back to its original form. He wondered what Tartarus was really trying to do. This wasn't an offer, it was a chance for Tartarus to see him beg. His friends, his loved ones, to have them see him beg for his life from the one who had taken everything from him. As their hands nearly met, Zephyr spoke about his awful personality. He thought of the girl who always scolded him for it, and for cursing. Since he never listened, she placed an interesting spell on him. Zephyr tightly grabbed Tartarus' hand and said that if he did that, with it, his body would explode with power far beyond their realm. Zephyr made his decision. He told the demon lord Tartarus to fuck off and raised his middle finger. Suddenly, a blinding light appeared, followed by a massive explosion. As the smoke cleared, Tartarus was shocked to see one of his hands missing. He stared, confused, at the stump. His expression twisted into rage, followed by a loud scream from the pain. He looked at Zephyr's corpse and, in fury, said that Zephyr had dishonored him as a damned human. Enraged, he smashed Zephyr's burned body. And with that, Zephyr's fight finally ended. He couldn't avenge those he cherished, nor save humanity as they had hoped. It all ended in vain, just like that. At least, it should have. Surprisingly, Zephyr woke up, as if nothing had happened. He knew he had died. But when he looked at his body, all his wounds were gone, and his armor was intact. As he looked around, he wondered where he was. He saw statues of gods and assumed he was in a temple. Curious if such a temple existed, he concluded this must be the afterlife, the underworld. Suddenly, he heard someone say this wasn't the underworld but the lowest floor of the pantheon, where the gods reside. Zephyr turned and saw an angel emerge from subspace. He tried to summon his sword, but was shocked when it didn't appear. The angel introduced herself as the high-level angel Mercedes, a representative who speaks for the gods. She explained that Zephyr had indeed died. Normally, he would have gone directly to the underworld. However, due to the strong demand of the three great gods, they decided to send Zephyr back to the past. When Zephyr asked what that meant, Angel Mercedes explained that he would return to the past with his memories, giving him a chance to change the future. Although he'd retain his memories, his abilities, such as his trained body, magical power, and acquired skills, would not carry over. Still, she believed that since Zephyr had already reached the apex of humanity once, he could rise again. Zephyr wondered if this was a delusion at the end of his life. He asked Mercedes why they were giving him this second chance, and what he was supposed to do. He also asked how they could offer this for free. There had to be something they wanted in return. When people were dying all around him during the demon's attack, and he was desperately praying for help, the gods had ceased all communication with their world. They refused to answer prayers and no longer accepted sacrifices. Worse, they revoked the clergy's ability to borrow divine power, stripping them of their healing abilities and causing the rapid downfall of human armies. Once the gods calculated there was nothing left to gain, they abandoned the world. So Zephyr believed there was no reason those calculative beings would offer him a chance like this for free. Angel Mercedes acknowledged his doubt and promised to share what the gods were currently thinking. She opened her eyes and relayed their words, "Show us something a little more interesting." Zephyr's expression turned bitter. Angel Mercedes explained that the gods observing Zephyr felt sorrow over the outcome. It was rare to see a human with such tenacity fight until the end in the face of a world's collapse. His 5 years of resistance against the demon armies had been, in truth, worth watching. She added that many of the gods regretted the world's early end. As she continued, Zephyr interrupted her by punching the ground, sending a shockwave toward her. He was furious that the only reason the gods noticed him was because they found him interesting. He shouted, asking if everything they fought for, he and his people, was just entertainment for the gods. Did they see humans only as a spectacle? Were they all just insects to be watched from above? Before he could release another force, Angel Mercedes summoned a massive foot that pinned Zephyr to the ground. She warned him to be courteous, because the gods were watching. Seeing that Zephyr misunderstood, she clarified, the gods had no interest in humanity as a species. The only one they cared about was Zephyr. The only way to gain anything from them was by proving one's worth, whether human or otherwise. She ended with a quote, "How can anything be free in this world?" She added that one god, in particular, was demanding Zephyr's return for another reason. In another place, demon god Tartarus had grown restless. He couldn't wait any longer and was demanding to speak to a manager. He couldn't accept that he, who had conquered 10 worlds, had been wounded by a mere human. Tartarus declared that he would take full responsibility for whatever happened next. Angel Mercedes explained that Tartarus, undefeated and never harmed before, aimed to destroy all worlds. But Zephyr had broken that perfect record. She asked if Zephyr understood the damage he had done to Tartarus' pride. Zephyr could hardly believe it was for such a petty reason. Angel Mercedes said Tartarus wished for a rematch to claim a complete victory. She then asked Zephyr what he thought. Zephyr smiled. The answer was obvious. If Tartarus truly wished to die, Zephyr would grant his wish. Angel Mercedes began the transfer. Although the exact arrival time was uncertain, Zephyr would have enough time to regain his strength. As a show of support, the gods had gifted him returner privileges, which he could access upon his return. Even if the gift came from the disgusting gods, an opportunity was still an opportunity, and Zephyr would use it to take his revenge. On demon god Tartarus, and on the gods who looked down on them like insects. Coordinates were generated. Final confirmation from the constellation in dimensional interference, complete. Angel Mercedes wished Zephyr well and said she would be expecting a good show from him. As he regained consciousness, Zephyr began to hear voices. He slowly opened his eyes as people called out to him. When he fully came to, someone poured water over his head. Seeing him awake, they confirmed he wasn't dead. Zephyr looked at their faces and wondered who they were. They seemed familiar. Then he saw the symbol on one man's chest, and it all came back to him. He realized he had gone back 10 or 20 years, to when he was a slave of the temple. Moments later, their captain arrived and ordered them back to work. A shirtless man warned Zephyr that he'd kill him if he angered him again. Zephyr simply asked what he was even talking about. The man got irritated, but Zephyr didn't care. In his mind, those guys didn't matter anymore. Meanwhile, a child approached and thanked Zephyr for protecting him. Zephyr couldn't quite remember the boy, it had been 10 years. Then he recalled the returner privilege. Angel Mercedes had told him he could activate it by saying, "Unlock privilege." Once everyone had left, Zephyr spoke the words. A bright aura enveloped his body. Shocked, he realized what it was. Then he smiled. Could they really be giving him things like this? As they returned to work, people were amazed by the rookie's performance. They commented on how Zephyr was an exceptional worker, with an unbelievable mining speed. Seeing his results, some even wished he had joined their team. Now, because of him, they couldn't slack off. Zephyr was a tryhard. Even Zephyr questioned if this was real. He still couldn't fully believe it. Moments earlier, he had unlocked his perks. A sharp pain hit his head as the knowledge of the perks flooded his mind all at once. Upon receiving the information, he discovered top-class skills, rare items, and even abilities implemented as actual skills. Zephyr laughed to himself, wondering if they were really giving away such powerful things. Suddenly, the mining team captain called out to him, irritated. He accused Zephyr of slacking off on his first day and expressed frustration that his workers didn't listen. He then raised his whip to teach Zephyr a lesson, but Zephyr caught it barehanded. The captain froze, stunned, a drop of sweat trailing down his face as he wondered how Zephyr had stopped the whip so effortlessly. Zephyr calmly apologized and said he would return to work. To him, the whip had seemed slow, likely due to all the combat experience he had gained over the years. Not even a scratch had touched him. Perk 1, Wall of Iron. Drastically increases defense. Completely nullifies damage lower than the user's defense power and reduces fatigue significantly. Although the skill had strict conditions, it was extremely effective when used properly. They had given him a remarkable perk. Zephyr had received a total of 9 perks. With them, and his knowledge of the future, he could rapidly recover his strength. The checkers were shocked to see the number of sacks produced by Zephyr's hard work. Once the day's results were tallied, they announced the rankings. First place, Group F. Second place, Group B, who were baffled that Zephyr's group had beaten them. Third place, Group H. Last place, Group E. According to mining team protocols, the resources and compensation from the lowest ranking group would be redistributed among the top 3 groups. Afterward, they commenced prayers to the great goddess of light, Arya. The workers shouted and cheered, begging for salvation through Arya's eternal light. The Temple of Arya, one of the 3 great gods, was the largest religion on the continent, and also the biggest loan provider. Most people there had lost their homes to monsters or were former adventurers rescued by the temple, only to become slaves repaying immense medical debts. For now, Zephyr still carried his stigma and wasn't free to move as he pleased. Leaving the work zone without permission would trigger his heart to stop, killing him instantly. He knew he had to pay off his debt quickly and reclaim his freedom. Only then could he move on to the next stage of his plan. Demon God Tartarus. Zephyr wouldn't let him do as he pleased this time. And most of all, Altair, the love of his life. This time, Zephyr would protect her. Moving forward, a sister announced that anyone who needed to use the store or consult with staff should come forward. Some people ordered a glass of beer and baked potatoes. A single glass of beer cost 80 silvers, which Zephyr found unreasonably expensive. Suddenly, the kid approached Zephyr and offered to buy him a drink. Zephyr was surprised and asked if the boy even had money. The kid replied that he had just received his share. Although he couldn't afford anything expensive, he wanted to do something because Zephyr had protected him from getting beaten, and their group took first place thanks to him. The kid explained that their group usually came in last, as it was made up of weaker people. This was the first time he had ever earned any money. That's when Zephyr realized why the others had been beating the boy. If a single person in a group was injured and couldn't work, their group's mining output would drop. By sabotaging a competing group, others could raise their own rankings. Zephyr told the kid he wasn't going to rip off a child. He then went to the store and asked if they had water of recovery. The seller, unfamiliar with Zephyr, asked if he was new and whether he even had money. He explained that a bottle of water of recovery cost 4 golds and advised Zephyr to endure the pain if possible. Zephyr pulled out 1.5 gold and said he would take a loan for the remainder. The kid was shocked and asked if Zephyr was crazy. They only earned 1 gold per day, and the loan interest rates were extremely high. But Zephyr simply told him to shut up, he just needed to pay them back. Water of recovery. A popular item that heals a small portion of health. It has a hidden effect. Drinking a large quantity slightly increases magic power. Though the effect is minimal even after consuming 10 bottles, with the perk Vision of Hermes, which boosts all potion effects by 500%, Zephyr didn't even need expensive elixirs. He knew he wouldn't earn much from mining alone, no matter how hard he worked. Compensation was limited. He had to do something else. Zephyr then approached the captain and claimed he had heard a monster's cry from within the mine. He requested permission to contact the hunter team and offered to guide them to the source. This was his plan. He needed to earn money from the dungeons. Monsters were beings born from distortions in magic. Most were hostile toward humans and caused great destruction. Yet, They also gave humanity a second chance. The crystallized magic within their bodies, magic stones, along with their bones and fur, became valuable materials for tools and items. Before long, monsters had become essential resources, and dungeons, their homes, were seen not only as dangerous zones but also as treasure troves waiting to be explored. Hunters, slaves chosen for their combat abilities and expertise in monster hunting, were tasked with entering these dungeons. To compensate for the danger, they received higher base pay and bonuses based on performance. Zephyr wondered why he had been assigned to the mines despite being a traveler. He believed there had to be a reason. He returned to the store to request another loan, but the shopkeeper declined, citing Zephyr's low rank. A nearby sister overheard and approached, suggesting that Zephyr could qualify for a loan by selling his organs. The temple, she explained, was currently seeking fresh organs for research purposes. Without hesitation, Zephyr took the paperwork and asked her to proceed. The sister told him he wouldn't need to give up any organs if he managed to repay the loan. Zephyr then told the shopkeeper he wanted to buy more potions with the money. The shopkeeper, unimpressed, told him to do whatever he wanted. After all, it was Zephyr who might die. As Zephyr drank bottle after bottle, the sister praised him, calling him a real man. The shopkeeper simply muttered that it was just another customer being sold to the lab. After finishing all the potions, Zephyr felt ready. Soon, the hunter team arrived. One of them approached and asked Zephyr for his name, confirming if he was the guide. Zephyr nodded. The hunters introduced themselves as Dale, Marco, and Gerda, with Gerda being the leader of the reconnaissance team. Zephyr shook hands with them and explained that while he didn't have night vision, he could use mana detection and hoped it would be helpful. Night vision allowed hunters to see in the dark, while mana detection spread mana across a wide field, enhancing one's senses, both crucial for navigating deep dungeons without attracting monsters. Gerda said that if everyone was ready, they would head out. Marco handed their baggage to Zephyr, who silently accepted it. Dale laughed, commenting that a miner with mana was a rare sight, and maybe Zephyr would wake up the whole dungeon. The two hunters felt familiar to Zephyr. He remembered at least one of them. In his previous life, he was transferred to a hunter squad about a month after this dungeon was cleared. If events unfolded the same way, two of them would die here. Zephyr smiled. He already had a plan for how to use them. At the dungeon entrance, they met a waiting team. Each person was asked to extend a hand, where a string bracelet laced with magic was tied. The man explained that if anything happened to one of them, the bracelet would snap, triggering his own bracelet to alert the base for backup. Still, since this was a reconnaissance mission, he doubted it would come to that, if they were careful. After the explanation, Zephyr and the team proceeded into the dungeon. Inside, they encountered two monsters and immediately launched an ambush. The main role of a reconnaissance team was to confirm monster presence and gather intel on the dungeon's layout. Based on that intel, a properly equipped attack squad would later be deployed to clear the dungeon. However, since recon teams also consisted of capable hunters, if the situation seemed manageable, they would sometimes clear the dungeon on the spot. Gerda suggested to his comrades that they should take over the dungeon themselves. Marco and Dale were shocked by the suggestion. Dale argued that their mission was only to investigate the interior and avoid making dangerous decisions. He questioned what Gerda would do if they encountered a group of monsters, or even stronger ones, since there were only 3 of them. Gerda responded that there were 4 of them and that defeating a kobold dungeon would be easy. Dale snapped back, saying they only had 3 people and some trash, pointing at Zephyr. He questioned how they were supposed to handle the dungeon with a team like that. Marco stepped in, telling Dale to calm down and listen to Gerda's plan first, saying he'd decide afterward. Gerda smiled and told Zephyr to take it out. Zephyr revealed hazelnut leaves and seeds. Gerda explained they would crush and mix them with cobalt remnants to mimic the scent of a female kobold. The scent was so strong it could be detected from hundreds of meters away. They would use this to lay a trap. Impressed by the result, Marco praised Gerda and said he truly respected him in moments like this. They asked how Gerda knew such things and had prepared so well. Gerda claimed it was experience, though in truth, Zephyr had taught him. In Zephyr's first life, after becoming a hunter, he and Gerda had worked on the same team. Gerda had always wanted others' approval but never had the chance. Before this meeting, He had been surprised by Zephyr's private plan.